Hi everyone, this is Penny from penny-astrology.com, and today I have decided to do November predictions for India. And the reason I decided to do this is because I know I have a lot of viewers who are in India and it was requested. Now, I apologize in advance because I don't have a lot of political knowledge about what is currently going on in India. I have heard a few things. I briefly tried to research what was going on, but it's very hard to find information and news that is not about the US. You know, I live in the US, and for some reason, even when I search for news about other countries, it's just like it only comes up in relation to the US, and I haven't really been able to find much else. So, that being said, I'm kind of going into this reading just a little bit blind. But that's not necessarily going to make it a bad reading, I hope. I apologize if it does. I am going to need anyone who knows what is going on in India to kind of help me translate this reading into the context of what is currently going on and how it would play out based on what the current situation actually is, because I'm missing quite a bit of information. So we are going to ask about a little bit about the past as well, to get a little bit more context and what has been going on in the months leading up to November for the country of India. And then we're going to learn about the future as well, and what is going to happen in India, both socially, economically, physically, you know, if there's going to be any physically significant events, and, you know, hopefully this will bring us some insight. So if we see things that we don't like, the second thing that I'm going to do is I am going to ask for some advice about what can potentially be done to help avoid some of these problems, to help solve some of these problems, because when I do readings for myself, that is what I always do. So we are ready. I'm done shuffling the deck, and we're going to first see what's been going on in the past here. So in the past, we have the Six of Wands. So this is a very kind of egocentric card. This is showing that a lot of the communication that's been going on throughout the country of India has a lot to do with I'm better than you, I've conquered something, and it's very competitive. It's showing, you know, who has a higher status, who has more to show for what they have. It seems that there's been a lot of bragging, of pride, and perhaps like a little bit of self-righteousness going on in the social environment. So in the future, we have the Ace of Swords, which I actually interpret as a really good sign, because this is a clean slate. You know, this shows that even though there's been a lot of bad blood in the months leading up to November, something's going to happen that's going to allow the residents of India to kind of start over, to start fresh, and be like, okay, this is the truth. This is what's really up, and this is how we're going to kind of change the way that we interact with each other. So this, on the negative end of this, it doesn't show like a catastrophic change. It doesn't show like, you know, world peace and everything suddenly becoming perfect. It doesn't show anything like that, but it shows more of a simple declaration and decision to start putting the effort in. So to me, this looks like there's going to be some positive leadership, some role models stepping up and setting a good example that kind of helps other people who've been a little bit more petty, a little bit more self-righteous. You know, this person who's a role model will help people see beyond their egos. All right, in the past, physically, we have the Seven of Swords. So this means that there's a lot of people who have been stolen from. There's been a lot of, you know, cash that's been slipped under the table. There's been a lot of kind of shady activity, and people who have been victims of this shady activity, people who have been done wrong. So this, in the most literal sense, would make me think that there has potentially been a problem of theft in India, more so than before in the recent months. And honestly, that would make sense because if you haven't noticed, the same thing seems to have happened in the United States. And in the future, we have the Hanged Man. So this can actually, again, be very literal. So this shows theft. This card can indicate that people will be punished for their crimes. And even if it's not that they are caught by the law and put under arrest, this at least means that something's going to happen that makes them slow down and think, maybe I shouldn't be stealing things. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to do other people dirty all the time. So again, this is actually a really positive sign. Now, even though this is positive so far, I'm still thinking I'm going to do advice, because when we get a positive reading, we want to learn how to encourage and nourish this positive outcome so that we can still get the best out of everything. Okay, so in the past, we have another very negative card. The 5 of Coins is a card of poverty. It shows suffering. It shows people who are really in need of help and, need the mercy, love, and support of people who are able to help. So it shows that there's been a lot of financial suffering in recent months. Okay, so this is interesting. In the area of money, we have the Chariot card now, which shows that, there's not an easy solution that is currently coming your way if you're living in India. It's going to be more of a political fight, more of a back and forth, more of a, how can we get these problems solved? So the solution is not there yet, but November is going to be a month about trying to figure out how you guys can get the things that you actually need. And I'm not saying that you're poor just because you're watching this video. If you're watching this video, you at least have internet access, and I know that, and that's definitely something to be grateful for. There's still people in India who are doing well financially. It's not that everyone was like this. So of course we have people in the US who have lost their jobs and who have experienced poverty as well. But this is showing that it's been more of a problem due to coronavirus, and that there are people out there who are willing to fight for you, and there are, people within the country of India who are willing to fight for themselves as well. So this doesn't necessarily indicate violence, but it does indicate protest. It does indicate movements. It does indicate something constructive will be happening to change the economic environment. All right, so in the past, in terms of the underlying emotional and spiritual factors that have been affecting India, we have the Wheel of Fortune. So this shows that it's really just been kind of a chaotic year where everything's all over the place, and there's big spiritual reasons for why this is happening. It's kind of a story that is meant to play out, that is meant to unfold in a specific way. And then the future of that is the 2 of Coins. So what I get from this is that it's kind of you're going to pick your lesson kind of thing. You're going to pick what you actually learned from this and what your takeaway is going to be, and what positive things you can learn and do with the new information that you have and the new lessons that you have learned. So overall, this really doesn't look that bad. I think it's showing that there's some good things coming, but also some things that are still in progress. So we're going to go ahead and now we're going to ask for advice on what can help India the most politically, financially, economically, all of those things. So what can you do to help your country? What can be done? All right. Okay, so this is saying that alliances need to be made, peace needs to be made, and even if you have someone who is really not making you happy, even if you have someone who has been insufferable who is around you, you still need to find a way to more gently coax them over to your side, offer them something appealing, use kind language, or at least language that will appeal to their senses and will lead them towards the things that they actually want. So you're going to have to focus on other people's needs as well as focusing on your own needs, rather than just being all about you, yourself, and I, because this is going to require some degree of teamwork. So when it comes to working alongside someone you don't like, there is a certain degree of, coaxing them and offering them something appealing, offering something in exchange for what it is that you want. Okay, so this card, this combination of cards really, I do feel like is, since there's some changes that need to be made economically, I feel like it's urging against taking the difficult option. So this is saying that things can be done, that positive changes can be made within the realm of the law. So you can use some of the laws that are already created, that are already in existence, in order to effectively get what you want. It's not going to be as productive to do anything to put your life at risk. You need to protect yourself. You might even consider yourself to be having to pretend to be a little bit more of a coward than you actually are. It might feel that way for some of you who are watching this video. But there are things that you can do that are playing it safe, that are still going to allow you to make the changes that you want. Okay. So this one is advising against making small deals that might be able to solve the problem short term. So it's almost saying like avoid short-term solutions, avoid agreeing to anything that will only solve problems in the short term, because what you really want is the people in power to step up, the people who actually have control of the money and control of the finances. You want them to step up, and you want them to make a big change, a big long-term change, rather than just settling for something small. So an example of this might be that there's like a new deal or a new offer, either for people who are unemployed or for helping people get small jobs that help them pay their way a little bit more. There might be some type of small offering that the government and the people in India make for the average person that sounds appealing and sounds good and is enough to appease the common person, but it's really not an effective long-term solution. So we want an effective long-term solution, which requires the people in power to actually make a change, to actually invest their own time and their own money and creating something that will last, and creating something that will not only fix things in the short term, but something that will create long-term solutions. So that is our goal. Now, this is such a funny card to get for advice, because it's the Tower. It's normally about panicking. It's normally about, acknowledging or viewing things as being awful. So this is kind of saying that you do need to have this kind of full-on spiritual awakening at this moment. We've all experienced something very, very awful in 2020. We've experienced a pandemic. We've had our lives uprooted. Everything around us has changed. It really is awful. So having a spiritual awakening is not an overreaction. And a spiritual awakening oftentimes looks like a meltdown. So don't be worried about being too dramatic. Don't be worried about expecting too much change or expecting something that is too radical. And yes, you do need to find a way to kind of coax people, perhaps people who have not been affected by coronavirus the way you have, coax them into caring, to joining your side and investing in your well-being. And that might mean that you have to make friends with someone who might have otherwise been an enemy, but you have to find a way to do that. Yeah, so this is basically just saying, don't try to pretend it's awful. Don't try to downplay the whole situation. And this is especially good advice for anyone who's in power in India right now, for anyone who is in politics in India. don't try to lessen what has happened to the common person during this pandemic, because it really is an awful experience. So again, the cards are urging, don't just look on the bright side. Don't really force that, because there's a lot of negative things that have happened. I know in the spiritual community, we focus on gratitude. We focus on investing energy in the positive things. But as the card said before, this is a time for a spiritual awakening, and a time for a spiritual awakening, it requires you to acknowledge how bad things have actually been. So again, if you are a politician by some chance watching my video, or if you are a person in power in the country of India, do not try to lessen or downplay what other people have gone through, because they are not going to be happy with you. They're going to be quite upset. So this could apply even if you are like a CEO or a boss at your workplace. If you try to, tell people, well, at least you have this thing or whatever, and maybe you're trying to be helpful, but if you say anything that downplays their suffering and downplays what they have gone through, they might be offended, and it might be a little bit harder to work productively with them. So their pain and suffering does need to kind of be acknowledged in order for them to feel respected and understood, and in order for productive teamwork type things to happen. So anyway, that was my prediction for the month of November for everyone who lives in India, and especially on a wider scale, what's actually going to be happening in India and how we can make the best of it. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. I also have links in the description below for my website, my Facebook, where I post horoscopes, and my Instagram, if you care about that for any reason. But thank you so much for joining me here today.